organization serving Montgomery County and surrounding areas, dedicated to the health and well-being of the boxer breed. Lone Star Boxer Rescue is run and managed 100% by volunteers since 1999. Our main objective is to rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome boxers that come to us from many sources, including local animal shelters, owner surrenders, and strays. For more information about Lone Star Boxer Rescue, visit our website at lsbr.org.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Hey, this is Skippy from Mornings with Lone Star with Dick and Skippy. You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schisler. I'm your host. I'm also a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. And today we're broadcasting live from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, which is located right here in Conroe, Texas, which in my opinion and the opinion of many others is the greatest place to do business in the world, particularly right now. The economy is booming. There's no doubt about it. And we've got a fantastic show lined up for you. A good friend, Rich Hall, has returned to the show. So, we're going to light some fires and hopefully give you some information that you can utilize and you will utilize because Rich is a wonderful business coach and has a lot of great information to help you do better in running your small business. But before we get started, I have a quick thought. Somebody asked me the other day the question, and I don't know if they phrased it exactly like this, but it was basically, what was the irritation in my business currently? What's irritating me? And I said, okay, what's irritating me? Well, I get irritated because nobody answers the phone quick enough, or I get irritated. But the point they were making, and we went on to have, I think, a wonderful conversation about it. Everybody's got at least one thing in their business that just keeps happening, and it's irritating them, but they won't stop and do something about it. And my encouragement is, as I was encouraged by my friend, stop and take care of that irritation. Because when you add up all the time and perhaps even resources that you devote or have to devote dealing with that irritation, and it might be a customer. There are just millions of things that people allow to go on day in and day out, month after month, that need to be addressed, they need to be handled, and then you can move on and you'll regain all that time and perhaps resources, but stop and take care of the irritations. And I thought that was an interesting conversation, so I pass it on to you. Take action. Get rid of the irritations in your business. Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses now worldwide come to talk about the latest in business news, business ideas, and be part of conversations that can make a real difference in their businesses. I want to remind you that the show is broadcast live on YouTube, so you can join us. You can watch as well as listen to the show. Simply go to YouTube, put in the Weekly Business Hour. It'll take you to our page. Got a button there. You push it, and we're live, and you can see us again as well as hear us. Also, if you have a comment, you have a question about your own business, I love to get those questions. Just drop me a line. Email's easy, Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. That's Rick at irlonestar.com. Well, as I mentioned, Rich Hall's in the building now, which is great. Rich, thanks for coming to visit with us today. Rich is a business advisor, consultant, coach. They got all kinds of different names for the more or less the same thing these days. But most importantly today, he is an exit planning advisor. CEPA is the initials. He is certified and works with a lot of clients on how to successfully And that's a big word, in my opinion, on exiting your business. Too many people leave too much money on the table and other things when they exit the business. Wake up one morning, right, Rich? I'm tired of working, or I'm tired of COVID, or I'm tired of this, that, tired of not being able to find employees. I'm going to put my business up for sale. What a disaster.
Absolutely the worst thing that you can do is that impromptu, I'm done, I'm tired, I'm worn out, and I want to sell my business. You get what you get at that point, and you're lucky to sell it at all, to be honest.
Well, and that's something I don't think a lot of people realize. I've read statistics that a vast majority of people just end up walking away from their business. They can't sell it or don't even try, I don't know. But I was amazed. You put all that blood, sweat, and tears in for a year, 2, 10, 20, 30 years, and then it's got some value to somebody somewhere, but you have to develop that.
Yeah, well, it's right, Rick. And again, great to see you again. Always a great time to be on the radio show and spend time with my good friend, Rick. There's a concept that a lot of business owners do not think about as much, which is just because a business generates a great income doesn't mean it is valuable to someone that may want to buy it. And there's a stat that says only about 30% of businesses put up for sale actually end up selling. Now think about that. That is a horrible statistic if you're a business owner. Yet I've seen it. Here's the other thing that's frightening. For most small business owners, they reinvest in the business. They try to grow their business. And therefore, about 80% of their net worth is tied up in the business. So imagine if you're a baby boomer approaching retirement, you're starting to think about it, or you've gotten to that point, 80% of your net worth is in the business, and then you find out you're part of the 70% that doesn't sell. That's my purpose, is to ensure that that tragedy does not happen to anyone I interact with, especially business owners.
You know, not to overemphasize it, but again, those statistics, the ones I offer, folks, just think about that. I mean, the fact that only 30% of the businesses that are put up for sale, whether it's you roll out of bed one morning, decide to do it, or you plan, which we're going to talk about. But the key here, if it's 80% of my net worth is, gosh, wouldn't I spend a little bit of time, invest a little bit of time and money and do it right so I can maximize the return I get for all those years and blood, sweat, and tears, as they say. What is it that people need to do? And let's kind of walk through that today to try to get top dollar for their business.
Sure. Well, the very first question that I talk with a business owner about actually has nothing to do with their business. Is I ask them right off, have you thought about what the future looks like? What's your personal goals after the business? And once you identify what that is, what's it going to take financially to accomplish that? Is it retirement? Is it buy another business? Because that amount of funds that's going to be required for that is a big driver of what you may need to get out of your business. And again, with most business owners, 80% of their wealth is tied up into it. It's a very big risk. So right off, we talk about what are the things that drive you? Do you want to leave a legacy? Do you want to pass it on to your kids? Do you want to sell it for top dollar or top value? And that's step number one, which is absolutely key. And the challenge is the entire ecosystem around this transitioning of a business is to get the business owner to actually sell their business. Because think, that's where a lot of people in the industry get paid or compensated for is, oh, you woke up one day, you've decided that it's time to do something different. Oh, you want to sell your business? Well, come on over. And they start talking about actually selling it. Well, what if your business is not ready? What if you have no idea what its value is or what it would sell for? If you immediately go down that path, then it can be very dangerous. And that's where the 30% comes in, only 30% selling, because they weren't prepared, and either their business was not one that would sell straight out, and we can talk about why that is. But it may also be that once you start getting into the selling process, you start thinking about things you liked in the business or things you enjoyed about working at your company or the people that you're around. Those are also drivers that could cause a business owner to walk away and say, I'm either not getting enough for it or I'm not quite ready. So we always work and talk about what does the future look like before we head down that path.
You know, one of the things that I really enjoy doing, but now it's become a requirement for me, and our mutual friend Monty Pendleton, his 3 things regarding the exiting of your business that you really should address when you start the business or as soon as possible. And one of those is, what do you want? How much money? What do you expect? And setting a figure, and then as you build the business and then you get to the exit stage, then you're not going to hopefully be disappointed if you've done the things to create that amount of value.
Yeah.
I think that in a basic, simple sense should be part of building a business plan, strategic plan, whatever you want to call it. You know, my 1-page business plan that I at least try to get people to do that, because so many people are reluctant to do that, to put it down on paper. And I'll be frank with you, I won't take on a new client unless they can answer Monty's 3 questions of when, to whom, and how much. And it's funny how people fumble around. Even someone who's been in business for 20 years, I've had them just sit there and go, well, you know, and I said, well, what are you doing here? What are you trying to build? Is this just a job? Which my dad always told me. He says, for most small business people, it's a job. They're going to make X number of dollars. Yeah, they worked in a corporate maybe, but they're in control. They got other benefits of it. But it's all about a job. But very, very little intentional planning of where they're going. How do you find that with people? Is it difficult to get them to step up and commit to that?
You know, what the real challenge is sort of the aha moment. And we'll go back to what a comment you said a little bit earlier, which was great, is just because a business may generate a great income, which a lot of them obviously do, it doesn't mean that it's sellable. And that doesn't make sense to most people. Wait, my company may generate, let's say, $100,000 a year, $500,000, $1 million, $10 million a year, and yet, Rich, you're saying that if I put it on the market, it may not sell? And the answer is absolutely it may not sell. So let's talk about the differences between the two. There's a concept called the value of a business versus the income it generates. The income can be, again, the numbers I tossed out. But value really comes back to, number one, what's a buyer willing to pay for it? And can you transfer that value from, say, yourself or you being the owner to someone else? Okay, let me give you, say, 3 to 4 real quick examples of a business that may not sell because of the way that you run the business or you're the owner. Let's say that you're so involved in the business from a day-to-day perspective that it's very hard to separate the business from you. Everyone knows you, all the relationships are with you. You go away, what's left with the business? That will scare a buyer away. So the number one thing you should do as a business owner is have the goal how to have the business run without you. And I've tossed this out to business owners before. If you took a 1-month vacation, you went to Europe, turned off your cell phone, would the business survive without you? If not, it's a lower valued company. So we focus on what are the things like improving your leadership team, improving your systems, your processes. Because if another buyer could come in and immediately start running that business very quickly, that's a high-valued business. You know, other examples are relationships that you may have with your top customers. What percent of your revenue is coming from, say, your top customers? If you've got a single customer generating more than about 10% of your revenue, that's a risk. Because a buyer would look at it and say, well, wait a minute. If Rick, you left, and that customer is now saying, well, my relationship was with Rick, so now that he's gone, I'm going to pursue some other options. That could be a major impact to the company and scare a buyer away. So there's a number of things like that right off the bat, when we go in and assess a company and work with the owner, is we identify those areas that may be of highest risk, and how do we address them as absolutely quickly as possible to make sure that we're increasing that value for the absolute top dollar possible as well.
You know, that makes all the sense in the world. And I guess one thing people need to really, really pay attention to is this takes a little bit of time. Again,
Yes.
I can't roll out of bed and solve those challenges by lunch tomorrow or next week. I've got to, if in fact I want to sell my business, and because to me they're separate, if I want to get top dollar for it.
Yes.
I mean, selling your business is like starting your business. It's almost like a parallel function or project or whatever, the way I look at it, and the steps that you can go through in order to recognize that 80% of your net worth is on the line.
Yes, that's
mean,
exactly right.
If you can't tell, I'm trying to encourage the listeners, when and if you come to do your sale of your business, if you're not transferring it, say, within the family, which has its own set of challenges, we know, don't we? That you really got to pay some attention to this and put some planning. And you don't have to stop the press, but you got to be working on it a little bit day in and day out for some period of time.
Yes, let's talk about that timing a little bit, because I'm glad you brought it up. Critical that most business owners don't think about is if you called, and they're, depending on the size of the company, can dictate who that first phone call could be. So a smaller business, you may call a business broker. A little bit larger business, now you're looking at investment bankers and M&A people, et cetera. And we can always go down that path, or if listeners have questions, put the question in the, with the video, and we're happy to answer it. But even if you started that process today, it's minimum 9 to 12 months to sell it. And that's before any of the prep work we're talking about. It's just 9 to 12 months. And again, we could talk through why it takes that long. But upstream from there, I tell clients to plan on about anywhere from 1 to 3 years prior to that year of selling, okay? And the reason for that is there are things that can be addressed up front. Again, if you're the primary salesperson for your company, hire a salesperson to come in and start transitioning the relationships over. If you've got some key employees, there's some key employees that really are beneficial to your business. But if there's the risk of them leaving because they heard you may be selling the company and they want to go somewhere else, that's a risk to the buyer. So there's ways to lock down key employees. All of these activities can be addressed, but you've got to plan ahead like you're talking about. And I've got some articles on my website as well that walk through what are those type things to look at as a business owner. And we can certainly walk through those sometime as well.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we're to the point of taking a break. A lot more to cover, again, to sell your business for top dollar with Rich Hall. So please stay with us and we'll be right back.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out ourlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your questions. Get seen on TV, YouTube, and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Support your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schisler, your host, And I want to remind you, if you've got a question, if a question even for our guest, if you'll drop an email right now, we'll take a look at it and should be able to answer it in the next few minutes if it comes in. But the email address again is rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. That's rick at irlonestar.com. Well, we've been visiting with Rich Hall about getting top dollar when you sell your business. Rich, as you've pointed out, at least that I've been able to understand today, is that this is a process. And you've got to allow the time. You've got to take the time. 18 months, 3 years. I mean, people don't realize that. They have no idea to build and shape their business so it's saleable for top dollar. But one of the things I feel or found is interesting is what you call the foundation of value. Why don't you kind of walk us through some of your thoughts on that, because that's kind of the foundation or basis of what we're really talking about.
Yes, absolutely, Rick. And we look at two different areas when we're evaluating a business for its value. Is number one is what we call the attractiveness of the business to an outside buyer. Because again, it may be your business, it may be your baby, it could be the thing that you've grown up with and that you've developed, but can it be run by another company, and would it be attractive to another buyer? So that's number one. And attractiveness, let's talk for a little bit so your readers and listeners can understand more about what I'm talking about on there. So we talked a little bit earlier, the number one factor would be the owner's involvement in the business. Depending on the size of the company, it may be required. Okay, and we get that, and the buyers get that. But as the company gets a little bit bigger, again, can the owner back away and have a strong company so that the company itself can run without the owner? That's one of the top factors. Others are, what's the growth potential for the company? What's the market you're in today? But do you have the ability, the systems, the processes, the people to expand and grow in the future? Buyers don't want to buy a business just to maintain it as it is. They do it with the hope of even growing further. Are you constrained today, or do you have the opportunity? It doesn't mean that you have to have a lot of people on staff or anything like that. Documented processes, systems, technologies, skillful employees, those are the things that will really attract a buyer, because they know they don't have to do that themselves. They don't have to put money up, so therefore they're willing to pay higher dollars for a company like that. Here's another thing many don't understand. When you're evaluating a business, number one, you need about 2 to 3 years worth of financials. Okay, it's not just how you did the last year. It's what's the trend. Most banks require 3 years. Others may go back 3 to 4 years. They want to make sure that you don't have a bump in your business because of COVID, as an example. Number one. Number two is most businesses' financials today are based upon taxes, right? And we're taught that. Legally, run everything you can through your business so that you can minimize your income and therefore pay lower taxes. But the financials that we're looking at for evaluating the company is called an adjusted version or a recasted version. So we look at what are all of those things that you run through the business that if an outside buyer came in, would they do the same? And if the case is not necessarily, then that can be added into the profits to make the company be even more profitable. And that's a key factor. Start getting your financials ready 2 to 3 years in advance and be prepared for that. Efficiency in the business, hiring good people, all of these are differentiators for really hitting higher value and top dollar for your company. There's another factor called the readiness of the company. Are you ready to transition? Okay. What about your contracts? Are your contracts assignable from your customer to, say, another company that may buy your business? Do you have repeatable processes? Do you have your top employees locked down? As we know, there's ways, whether it's employment agreements or golden handcuffs or something so that your top employees are staying. Hence, like we talked about earlier, if you can take 2 to 3 months off and the company can run without you, then that is a very valuable business that an owner would be on top of and willing to pay top dollar for. Very few companies today, as they are today, accomplish that. Those that plan like we're talking about and make it an effort to focus on the value of the company are the ones that sell for top dollar.
You know, it's funny, you mentioned about taking that time off for your company, and I'm thinking here, and I kind of got a smile on my face, I'm sorry, but Norm Brodsky, I believe I said that last name right, was a writer in Inc. magazine, and some years ago, he had built a business, in fact, several different businesses, and he was ready to sell his business. And I guess he wanted top dollar. Mm-hmm. And I guess since you're writing in a publication, you better have, you know, the background and the experience and know the right things to do. Anyway, Norm set up, one of the things he did was over a period of 2 years, he took more and more time off in blocks, exactly to do what you say, to test his people, to make sure he had the right people, so that when he went to sell, he was in a file storage business, that he could represent that, look, I took 2-month vacation, you know, and he says it wasn't for the vacation, but he started with the week, then it was 2 weeks, but he built it into his planning to exit his business, and I thought that was so wonderful.
Absolutely. And those are the type companies that sell within the 30% because they plan for it, and they sell for top dollar. Examples of businesses, and really how a lot of it's working today on selling a business, is if a buyer is concerned that they can't come in and run it themselves, then they're going to offer a much lower price. And when they start offering that lower price, now the dollar amount that we talked about you needed for the future now may be going away because you didn't plan for those things that we should have done in advance. And as long as you do and you address it before you put it on for sale, that's when you get top dollar.
Yeah, and again, some of this, or most if not all of it, is common sense, but people have been running a business, owning a business for, especially for a period of time, 20, 30 years, something like that, and they just feel like, hey, this is the best business, I'm number one in the industry, whatever, and so they don't really see. One of the things I talk to people about is what I call a coat of paint. You need to be able to clean up the business physically, but also all the items you mentioned. You go down through your employees, because when people walk into a business that just looks and feels tired, you know, you got 30-year employees, which is okay. But, you know, everything is just worn out, the equipment, everything. Don't expect to get top dollar for something like that.
That's exactly right.
Now, the coat of paint, maybe you need to paint the walls in the office, who knows? But I try to impress people because just change places. You're going to go out and buy something. You're going to buy a car, or if it's nice and shiny and clean and it looks brand new, nobody's been in it, but yet they may have had 100 test drives. You're more likely to pay top dollar.
Yes.
It's all about that.
Yeah.
With the appearance, in my opinion, the appearances. And I've found a lot of times that's how I break through to people to get them to accept some of these needs and that they need to do and go about the work of doing it.
Sure.
So
it's not unlike if you think selling a house, if you called a realtor up today and said, oh, I woke up this morning and want to sell my house. Well, they come in, there's, you know, the kids have been playing outside, the dogs have trampled dirt inside, you may have a crack in the wall, you got paint that's messed up. You're going to have a hard time selling that business. But if you bring somebody in and they walk through with you and you say, all right, you got to fix these things over here, fix these things, put that coat of paint back on it, then odds are very good that you're preparing your business, your home, in advance and get to sell for the numbers of what the market says it should sell for.
right. And that's important. You mentioned the market. Valuing your business is typically a new concept to someone who's built a business and selling it. Please tell us about how we value our business.
Okay, great point, because most owners don't know how their businesses are valued. There's really 2 to 3 approaches depending on the size and the type of business. And I'll describe it, and then I want to focus on one that's the most common. So for businesses that have been around for a while, have forecastable revenue, sort of a steady type, we know what it's going to do in the future, there's one called an income approach. We're basically, for the financial nerds out there, we do a discounted cash flow approach to see what the value is today, okay, based on future cash flows. But the most common one is called a market multiple. And you may have heard of it, but it basically takes there's a metric in your financials called your EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. And then we multiply that by a number that is defined based on your industry, the other players, and there's a range typically of what these have sold for in the past. Those companies that weren't ready may have sold it for 1 or 2 times EBITDA. The other ones that really did a great job and hit a home run preparing may have sold for 10 times EBITDA. Now, you remember a few minutes ago when we talked about preparing your financials? Well, the version of EBITDA we're talking about is not your tax version. So all your listeners, don't get depressed out there thinking my numbers are bad. It's this adjusted version where you add the things back to your profit that maybe not be required. Quick example, you're the owner of the business. Pay yourself, let's say a number, $200,000 a year, whatever that number is. If you were going to hire somebody to run your business, would you pay him $200 or would you pay him maybe $150? If you paid him $150, then that $50,000 difference would be added back to profit. Okay, so there's an exercise for that. Where you are in that range of multiples that we're talking about based on your industry is where we're talking about getting top dollar. If you focus on the things that we've discussed and prepare in advance, then you can move that needle to the top end of the range. And when you're thinking going from maybe a 2 or 3 times EBITDA all the way up to 7, 8, or 9 times, that could be 3 to 4 times the amount of value you can add to your business. That's why it's so important. And again, most owners don't know how this works. This multiple data, I have access to a database, a lot of people do, that can analyze what companies have sold for in the past in your industry, and we have a good starting point. So we go in and we may do a valuation of a company the way it is today, with all the warts and all the problems and everything that exists. That's our starting point. Now we know where we need to grow from. And we're able to go in and do an assessment of the company to identify what aspects of the company are maybe dragging down the value that we need to address first to increase the value as much as possible. That's how a lot of the process works.
And obviously it's important because when I go in with an attitude, I'm going to sell my business, and I really have not spent any time, which I think is more the case than it's not. Mm-hmm. And then, if I didn't follow Monty's scheme and try to say, well, this is what I want to work towards, mm-hmm. then I'm just sort of, oh, what's it worth,
Oh, Rick, and here's the bad part. I've got a client today that Monty mentored about 10 years ago. So you want to talk about pressure, because anytime we're talking about their company, he'll bring back up the client will. Well, Monty said, I was like, yeah, you're right. Monty is absolutely fantastic. But that's the truth. Most business owners don't think about this type of thing until they get to a point. And see, here's the other part that's really important. 50% of businesses, owners exit the business without prior cause. Examples: death. If an owner dies, what happens to the business? Divorce. Disease, owner gets cancer, is taken out of the business. Can it run by itself? Is there a major disagreement amongst the shareholders? All of these, maybe you're under distress, financial distress, family distress. 50% of businesses are exited not voluntary. If you're not preparing for this, what are you going to do if it happens to you and all that wealth for you and your family goes away?
And that's a wonderful question, because the worst thing that I can imagine is I pass on and don't leave enough for my wife and whatnot to live the balance of her life. And that can absolutely happen.
Yes.
If at least I've taken some steps to put value in the business. Might not be top dollar, but it's pushing that way. That's a very interesting scenario.
There's a concept. Here's a story that I tell business owners sometimes that are in like a partnership, as an example. And there's some technical terms to it, and we won't go there yet, but I'll say, all right, you're in the business with your partnership. What if you found out that your partnership or your partner was having an affair? Let's say it was two men in the business. The wife, the spouse of your partner, found out that he was having an affair. She goes and goes for a divorce, and she gets her share of the company, or his share. Imagine now your brand new partner is a very upset spouse of your prior partner, and she thinks that you knew about it all along. Okay, now you've just potentially lost half your company. Okay, a lot of scenarios like that happen. And the thing is, things that increase value of a company there are agreements and things that can be put in place to say, listen, if an event like this happens, if there's an ugly divorce, if there's a death, if there's a disease, there's contingencies that can be put in place that says, hey, if that happens, we want to pay off the family, but we want to maintain the ownership within the company so it can keep running effectively. These are the kind of things that we talk about with clients, because you never know that what may happen, and it's not that big of an effort to actually put a plan in place to address these type topics.
It's funny you should mention that, but any business I did, any venture I started where I had one or more partners, we had a buy-sell.
Yes.
Which covered all those.
It's exactly what we're talking about.
Very simple, but it covered it in case, because it focused on the business. So
yes.
Not on everybody and what's going on in their personal lives. Well, let me ask you this. Now, let's assume for a moment a scenario where I have been diligent, probably work with someone like you for a period of, say, 3 years, and I've built the business, I've structured it, processes, procedures, good people, everything is got me at that level where I'm in that range of getting top dollar. How in the hell do I find a buyer?
Great question. Here's the thing. There's a lot of different ways that you can sell your business. Again, most owners don't even think about this. So there's internal ways, internal within the company. Let's say that you want to sell some or a percent to your management team. Take chips off the table. Okay, maybe you want to transfer some to your kids. Sell it to your kids. Don't give it to them. Word to the wise. But there's a lot of ways of doing that internally. You may have heard of things like employee stock option programs, like ESOPs. Those are ways. So it's not always about selling it to an outside party. Conversely, selling it to the outside, yes, your number one goal would be if you can sell it to a strategic buyer. One of the ways, who are the people in the industry that may know who maybe one of your competitors would want to buy you out? Maybe there's a complementary industry that says, I love what you do, and if I rolled you up under my company, it can make my company even more valuable. A lot of different scenarios. Okay. A lot of your business brokers, advisors in this space, investment bankers, they'll actually market and reach out to these companies on your behalf to try to generate interest, okay? And to get someone and explain more about your company, to get you want at least 2 to 3 buyers, because now you got competition, right? Let them bid up the value of your company or the price that they're willing to pay. But once you've done the things that we're talking about, you're going to have a highly valuable company that those in the industry will know about, and they'll want to snatch it up. You just got to get there first, and then it's a much easier sell.
Yeah, it's again another process.
Yes.
Independent. Once you've got the business looking good, so to speak, and working very, very well, then you've got an asset here now. Let's wade into the water and look for those buyers.
Yes.
And stir that interest up.
A lot of people can help you with that. A lot of people are keyed in if you know of people in the industry as well, because ultimately, but if you'll go back to the very beginning, when we talked about your personal and your financial goals, this is when it all ties together. Is the dollar amount that you're selling it for at this point going to meet your financial goals? What about your legacy? Is it important to you that the people that are left are taken care of? A lot of times that doesn't come with top dollar, so you can structure some ways of selling. There's also ways of selling a part of the company today to like private investors. They come in, really grow the business, and then you get to take another bite of the apple of a much bigger company and potentially make even more on the second round. A lot of ways of doing this. Just whatever you do, don't rush into it. Wait to the last minute. Wake up one day and say that I'm done. I want to sell it. At that point, I'm sorry, you get what you get, if anything at all. And that's the tragedy.
Yeah, that and considering the market, wherever the market is with the economy up and down, and there are a lot of considerations to go. I never forget I worked with a business some years ago, and it was husband and wife, and they had worked in this business for a number of years. It was a professional type business. Anyway, bottom line is they had a good earnings history and whatnot, but their business did well in a down economy. And dadgummit, we were just moving into a recession, or what most economists called a recession. And so their business was set, the income, the bottom line was getting ready to, maybe not straight up, but, at a good angle up.
Yeah.
And as most recessions, maybe a couple of years, 3 years. So all of a sudden, their business would be worth a lot more based on all the factors that we had worked through. And my advice to them was they really wanted to retire. They were at the age they wanted to retire. They had children who literally lived around the world. They themselves were from France originally. And I encouraged them, and my advice to them was, do this. Here's the plan. Work the 2-3 years. And there were other things that they needed to do, sell off a related business, this and that. And that's what they did. And their business, Scott, was, because they'd put 20 plus years into it, to work another 2 or 3 years would be worth it. So sometimes the answer is, don't sell.
Yeah.
And if you want to do this, this, and this. So it's very interesting. Well, as we wind down here today, what are the takeaways that people, because you've covered a lot of ground, that people should be mindful of and be thinking about right now?
I think the biggest, say top 2 or 3, focus on your personal and your financial goals. If you have a financial advisor or planner, great. That's somebody that can sit down, look at where you're at today, and walk you through what it would take at some point in the future. Number 2, look at your business from the aspect of business value, not just the income. And remember, we're talking about transferable value, the value that would go to another buyer. Okay, sometimes you may need help looking at that because you may have rose-colored glasses because it's your business, And then I think the final is a company that is run based on a value-based system, like we're talking about, based on value, will always be in a position to sell. And how many times have you had phone calls come in where people have asked you about buying your business and you don't know what it's worth? You're not ready. If you're running your business this way, then you'll be prepared when that phone call comes in and you can sell it for top dollar.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice. Very, very important. Rich, tell the audience, if you would, what you could do to help people in this scenario, exactly what your skill set is and what you're offering to people.
Okay. Well, thanks, Rick. I have run businesses in my past. A lot of my career has been around turnarounds for both small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and I've got a lot of experience in family-owned businesses. And because of the transition that I've seen so much in the baby boomers and the future transfer of wealth from their businesses, I'm also doing a lot of work in this exit planning space. So basically, I come in and will work with the business owner, help them identify their personal and financial goals, evaluate how attractive their business is, how ready it is to exit, and then we'll do evaluation of the business. Here's if it would sell, here's a range of what it would sell for today. And basically the outcome of that little engagement says, here's where you're at, and here's what it'll take to get to where you want to be. And then we can lay out a plan for what that looks like ongoing, whether you want to take it and run with it yourself, or if I can provide assistance along the way. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's a great process, and I would encourage anyone to very carefully consider engaging someone like Rich Hall to walk you through this, in many times once in a lifetime process. For many people, they sell their business. Occasionally, of course, we do multiple businesses, but a lot of times it's only one, and this is the one. Mm-hmm. And 80% of our net worth, it needs to be done right. So don't shortchange yourself. Find an expert like Rich Hall to help you. If people want to get in touch with you, Rich, what's the best way to do it?
A couple of ways. Website, richhallgroup.com. You'll find myself, a lot of information about what we do. There's other members of the team on the website as well. Feel free to email, which is also rich.hall@richhallgroup.com. There's also the way to reach out to me on the website as well. And we also share a lot of information, not only the website, the blog, but look us up on LinkedIn as well. We have some great interaction, share a lot of content out there as well.
Well, thank you so much, Rich, for coming back, and hopefully you'll consider coming back again, because it's always extremely interesting what you have to offer, and you got a great background, wonderful experience, and thank you for sharing it with the listeners of the Weekly Business Hour.
Thank you for having me, Rick. Great to speak again.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break, our last break of the day, and then we're going to go into the final segment of the show. And we've got a mailbag question that is very interesting, not thought of very often. But the question in summary that I received was, how do I manage the end of life of my IT assets? Every business today has at least one computer, and most businesses have multiples. So stay with us, and we'll talk about what you do to properly manage your IT assets. And this is Rick Schisler and Rich Hall. Again, thank you. Stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Did you know that there are over 153 million orphans in the world today? The sad reality is 99% of those kids will likely never be adopted. Core Love is an organization right here in Conroe that takes care of orphan children in Haiti, Honduras, and India. We bring the love of Jesus by providing their 6 basic needs of clean water, proper food, healthcare, education, job skills, and a loving home. Visit corelove.org, that's CORELUV.org. Will you help defend the orphan?
Second Saturday Divorce Workshop provides unbiased information to help you understand your options and move forward with your life. This divorce workshop is for you if you are contemplating divorce, in the process of divorce, already filed for divorce, or post-divorce. You will explore the emotional, legal, and financial aspects of divorce from professionals who have guided others through divorce. For more information on this divorce workshop, contact SecondSaturdayWoodlands.com or call 832-375-0900.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app for your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That is Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dan Simon, Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
We have the safest food supply in the world. Strict laws and regulations restrict the usage of hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides within our food supply. Production agriculture practices and technologies such as the use of GMOs, which is not any more or less risky than conventional crop production, has allowed American farmers to produce more food on less acres in environmentally sound ways. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension, helping Texans make lives better.
Remember to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on your computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. Lone Star Community Radio, broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids are removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio, broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're going to wind up today's show. I'm going to hold on to that mailbag item because I need more than a couple of minutes. It's an interesting idea. And in the meantime, if you're a regular listener, if you come back and listen on the 18th of March, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to address this issue. It may sound like a minor issue, but your computing systems, your IT, whatever you want to call it, are critical in business today. And a lot of people understand that, but there's still small business people that don't really understand that. So we're going to talk about it a little bit and try to encourage everybody to recognize the real value of those systems. And today, I want to again thank Rich Hall for being with us, talking about getting top dollar for our business. It's an important concept for anybody that's looking to sell their business and walk away with as much money as possible. And again, put a note on your calendar to join us next Monday. We'll do a rerun, but on the 18th, we've got a brand new show, 11 o'clock Monday morning, right here, the Weekly Business Hour. There'll be a video podcast of today's show that'll be posted in a couple days on Wednesday. Just go to Facebook, YouTube, look up the Weekly Business Hour page and other social media sites, and you can listen as well as watch the Weekly Business Hour. And until next week, stay engaged and always keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thanks.